So anyway, it turns out that aliens killed a cleaner. Roger Wilker has died, RIP. Hello everyone and welcome back. I've been playing Orbit Industries, a nifty little space station simulator game that you see before you. One thing that I've found is that it's not as straightforward to get into. Luckily it is very error tolerant, so you can kind of brute force your way through the game if you want. But I want to put a bit of a tutorial to put together some of the knowledge that I've gathered through my experience. Anyway, let's go. I'll start with the first mission, which is a bit of a tutorial. I will add my own commentary, just to provide some tips, as I said before. Anyway, let us begin with the first tutorial.
Good day, Commander. This briefing will guide you through the main tasks in Orbit Industries. Your task will be to extend the station and produce resources. These resources are needed to generate income from contract work, so-called projects.
Okay, this is the default space station layout. Every station that you begin with will look like this. Now one of the things that does bother me in the beginning is that this is misaligned with the rest of the station. So the rear area here, if you can call that horizontal, space has no absolute coordinates or reference points. If you want to take this as horizontal, then this is not aligned with that. So that does kind of bother me. But you can easily solve that by reconstructing the station. There's no penalties other than a bit of money. Anyway, so the game is telling us to go to the SMI interface, which is the station management interface.
This view shows all projects which are currently available. Completing projects will produce income or unlock new technologies. And some will progress you through the mission. Icons inside the project entry show which kinds of resources are needed to start the project. If a system is missing that produces this resource, it is grayed out. In this case, a briefing center needs to be built before the project can be started.
Right, so like it said then, in order to start a project you need to have every single requirement. You need to match the pictures to what you see here. So yes, these pictures stand for these things over here. So in this case, you have a lab, which is this one over here, and you have the briefing interface, which is here. There'll be other things that you need to build. So you do have to expand your station in order to get access to more capabilities. At the moment it says invalid. So if it says invalid, you can't start it. As you expand your station, then certain things will open up. And if you're playing a story mode, then you'll have a mission here. Research is for researching new modules for your space station, which in turn give you more capabilities once you build them. So you might get more contract work, or you might get further modules to research. Or you might need them in order to fulfill the goal. Another thing that the game may not cover is finance. The space station needs money to run. So that basically means making sure that you are fulfilling enough contracts to make enough money to then keep up with the upkeep. And hopefully also expand your station. You can take loans if you're desperate, but some of the interest rates are actually ridiculous, so do not, for example, take a 40% interest. Yeah, that's not good for you. So yes, if you find yourself short of money, then going through the list and picking out the cheap loans is actually not a bad idea. Another thing which is really important is that modules require resources. They provide and require resources. So there's energy, which is kind of to be expected. They need breathable air, so in this case this will be atmosphere. Yeah, atmosphere. Some parts may require water and whatnot, but that's not for human use. Anyway, so this here gives you a chance to customize your station if you want to. This gives you the overall goal. This is not really something you're gonna come back to. Usually just looking over the missions that become available is sufficient. And you also have a bit of a glossary for the modules. Unfortunately, the glossary doesn't quite give you all the information that you need. So for example, if you look at the Bulkhead, they have added this information since some of the earlier patches, but it still doesn't tell you what you need in order to research this. So the advice right now is to simply keep building modules, and then these things should eventually unlock.
The station can be extended at connectors. There are blue and yellow ones that each link specific modules. Select a blue connector since the briefing center can only be built there.
So the game wants us to build a briefing center. Okay, so let's see. So there's two types of connectors. This yellow one allows you to build resource modules, whereas the blue ones allow you to expand the station. So in this case, the game wants us to build a BCE. You can scroll here. That's a BCE, that's a briefing center. So you can choose where it's connected. In this case, you can connect to any of the blue nodes. You can rotate it. And if the module that you have has multiple connectors, then you can actually press C to change the connector. In this case, there is no other connectors. You can only rotate it.
This view lets you control which resources are produced. Only fully wired systems produce resources. These will be required by projects or other systems.
This is where you connect modules to resources. It plays a bit like a circuit diagram. And just because you build something doesn't mean it's connected. So you have to come here and actually connect them manually. For the time being, let me just do this.
Systems that are required by the briefing center are already placed and fully wired. Required systems are shown as input in the overview panel of a system chip or the chip itself.
Okay, so if you put the mouse over any module, you can see what it requires in terms of inputs. So if you actually can't click on it. Anyway, so you can see that requires something yellow, which is power, something grayish, pinkish, which is environment, and you need cargo as well. You need to provide every single one of those resources in order for the module to be active. Now let's see, this is a habitation module. Let me just wire that up. Okay, because the game is paused, we can't actually see how things change. So as we enable things... Right, so we've already done this. You just click on the wire and we will allow you to connect.
The briefing center is fully connected. Projects that depend on it can now be accepted.
Okay, let's pause again. So different modules have different requirements. Some of the early ones will have pretty much the same things. So some of the key ones are power, atmosphere, and payload exchange. Payload exchange is the equivalent of the docks at the station. This is where you get things coming in and going out of the station. The habitation module is to house people, and you can see how many people you have here versus how many people the station demands. If you don't have enough people to run a module, then what will happen is that it will run less efficiently. So in this case, you can see that the lab requires 22 people. Every module also has an upkeep cost. For every turn, the lab requires 1.31 cash. I don't know what that figure is supposed to represent, but basically it's a unit of money. There is also a chance of errors if you look at the bottom, and you can have different kind of errors, and they can also propagate throughout the station. That is something to keep in mind when you design a new station. Okay, so let's go to the SMI.
The project is now ready to be started.
Right, so now we can do this. Once fulfilled, it will give us 100 cash. You click on it and you press space to
Processing
start.
the project takes some time. You can see the progress when you select the tabs to filter on the left.
Yeah, you can also cancel it with the X button. At the moment we're not doing anything, but let's proceed onwards. Let's just fast forward a bit until it's done. So you have to make sure that you have enough contracts going on to keep the station afloat. Otherwise, once you go bankrupt, that's it. That's the end of the sandbox. I think something is not progressing well. So let's check out the resources. So let's see, we've got enough. We're just a touch short of power. We have enough payload exchange, and we're just a little bit short on atmosphere. So it generally should work. So if we go back to the abstract layout, you can mouse over this, and you can see that it's not getting payload. Right. Okay. So what happened was that I wasn't providing the payload to this. So there you go, that's how you troubleshoot things that are not functioning. You can also click on this to see a breakdown of the modules. If you have multiple instances of a type, then you can click on that in order to get a breakdown by individual module. So in this case we have only one and it's running at 83%. The shortage seems to be on atmosphere. Yes, it's lacking atmosphere, but that's fine. Anyway, we should have fulfilled our needs right now. So if we go back here and you allow time to progress, then the lab should come online pretty soon. There you go, now it's at 88%, so which means that the projects will proceed. And as you can see, it's gone up a bit. We should be done shortly. And that's done. Now once it's complete, it doesn't automatically give you the rewards. You have to come here and then click on that and then either press space or click there. That will close it.
More projects will be available from now on. Follow the mission projects to achieve the overall objective. Great success.
Excellent. So that's basically how you do contracts. The same applies to doing research and storyline missions. It works in exactly the same way. So you have to make sure that you have enough money. As you can see, it is costing us a bit to maintain the station. We have to get 187 cash for every 100 turns. Which means making sure that we do contracts. Otherwise we'll go bust pretty soon. But for the time being we have plenty of money. And we should be okay. At the moment you can see that we don't have anything to research. That is one of the obtuse things about the game. But basically, in order to unlock further modules to research, you need to expand your station's capability. If we go to the environment, if you click on any of the blue links, you'll get a list of expansion modules. The ones on the left are the infrastructure modules.
If there are 2 or more blue connectors on a preview module, you can choose between them.
So the B modules are basically straight links. The A module is something that was added recently. It provides a curved interlink. The S modules are multiple interconnectors. So the biggest one is the 6 module, which connects on every side. Then you have one with 5, that leaves one side unconnected. You have 4, which instead of a connector gives you a resource terminal. Then you have this one, which is a T interface. This one just gives you a L interface with a resource connector. This one's a specialized resource connectors. This one just terminates with 2 resource connectors, while this one has 2 resource connectors, but it has a further blue connector. So you can stack these ones more easily. At the moment we only have a number of modules available. We have the lab, we have the briefing center, and we have the administration center. We have 1 lab and we have 1 briefing center. We have 1 airlock, which is over here. That's an airlock over there. Now if I cancel this, yeah, you can see that you can see the airlock there. Now, one thing about airlocks is that they have a requirement to have an open space in front of them. You can see the ghostly shaded red wires. That extends out from the station, and you can't build anything that overlaps with that. This is where the payload comes in, this is where the payload goes out. So it's a good idea to isolate these airlocks, or anything that involves cargo, away from the rest of the station. So out of the modules that we have available right now, we don't have the administrative center. So let's build that. And you can spin it as I said before. I prefer to align my things vertically. The only thing we have to do is connect it. I'll clean this up shortly, but for the time being, let me just...
Every system that is placed costs upkeep each tick. The amount can be seen on the overview panel of systems or their modules. The global income and expenditure of your station is listed inside the station management interface in the tab Finance Overview.
Yeah, as the AI just said, everything depends on upkeep. We've already covered this part though. Okay, so we've connected the administrative center. We just have to give it a bit of time in order for everything to...
Commander, a ship on its patrol on the Galgar system borders found a wrecked ship. The model and origin species could not be determined. They have asked us if we could investigate the shipwreck.
And that right there opens up a story mission. Right there. There is no time limit at the moment, so you may want to make sure that your station is up to scratch before you proceed too far. In this case, make sure that you have enough missions progressing for cash. That takes precedence.
A running project occupies systems, so they are unavailable for other projects as long as the project is active.
Yes, what she said. So unless you have enough free resources available, then you can't start multiple projects. So this is why you may want to have multiple instances of any particular system. Now the one thing that I want to do, this is a bit of a veteran tip, but one of the things that I want to do is make sure that we research the bulkhead before we expand too much. Because the bulkhead prevents errors from propagating across systems. And if you expand your station too far, it will mean that we have to rebuild it in order to add the bulkheads. Okay, so maybe we require some more things. Okay, so let me at least meet the resource requirements. We need more power, and we need more atmosphere, and now we should be okay with payload. Right, so more power. Okay, so we have one environmental control system over here that provides us with atmosphere, so let's build the second one here. Can be a little bit fiddly sometimes. Sometimes when you click on something, you can click on space to confirm the build, but it may not always work the way you want it to. So if the mass is over an interface, then you can end up just shifting instead of constructing. In this case, we want to build it there, but a safe way is to simply click on confirm over here. And we need to add some power. Right, let's build that. I like to match up my resource modules. And also time is passing. So let's see, 21, yes. As with everything else, you have to come here and build it. It's not enough to simply build it in the space station itself. You have to connect it.
The output of a system is distributed to its connected systems. If a system gets less than the maximum of any input resource, its efficiency is reduced.
Precisely.
This will slow down progress of running projects that depend on these systems, while the upkeep cost of the used systems stay the same.
One thing that isn't stated is that you also have manpower requirements. You don't have to connect manpower. It simply comes out of the pool over here. So as long as you have more people than you have a demand for, you'll be fine. Okay, and expanding the station has unlocked the water synthesizer here. I don't know exactly which one you need for the bulkhead, but that's a key goal right now. Let me just progress some time. We want to unlock this. And also, no, can't do anything else. Our station is too small. Get done. You have to click on it and then hit space to close.
Be aware that credits are only earned upon completion of projects.
Now this is available. So as she said, you have to go here and manually close projects, otherwise you haven't properly completed it. So let's begin researching this. That is not required by people in the station, it is actually only a requirement for modules. People's drinking water is taken care of by the environmental synthesizers. I may need a lab as well. Okay, so let me do this. Let me build an extra lab. Let me build an extra lab over here. That may be what's missing. So I don't know exactly what you need for the bulkhead, but building a few of these modules, as we have done, should allow us to unlock it. Oh yes, and of course, don't forget to connect things. Alright, this is getting crowded. I will restructure this entire thing. But at the moment, I just want to unlock the bulkhead. %. Okay, that's fine. So it seems that the game wants us to build a few more modules. Unfortunately, we may have to expand. So let me do that. That's an L interface. Let's extend that forwards. I usually recommend that you use a 6-way interface. That gives you the most room for expansion. Ah yes, and there you go, space. Pressing the space key sent us elsewhere. So if you want to construct, you have to make sure that the pointer is pointing at empty space. Otherwise, you may end up being shifted over to somewhere else. Okay, so let me just expand this. Put another 6 interface. So the straight connectors and the 6 interfaces are the basis of your station. So let's see. Hasn't unlocked yet, so I have to build more modules. So we have 2 labs. Let's build a BCE. So usually I find that if you build 2 of each type of module, it unlocks further modules. we got a BC there, and let's see, we're missing missing a admin. Okay, so we're missing a second admin. Let's go to ASL. Expand this. And expand this. It's a bit messy. I'll show you how to clean it up later on. But right now, I just want to have a bulkhead. Give it a bit of time. Okay, now things are online. Still hasn't unlocked everything. Anyway, always make sure that you have missions
There
going.
is yet another resource that all systems need, which is not distributed through wires: workforce. In this mission you started with some workforce already. This resource is needed to keep the efficiency of other systems at their maximum. So in the end, they will produce faster. Building and connecting workforce systems will increase the maximum workforce that is available on your station. It will slowly increase until it reaches the limit. You can see the available workforce on the left and the required on the right side of the parameter panel.
One of the big limiters in the ESV is systems clashing. So in this case, you can see that the habitation module that I want to build will overlap with this module over here. So that can't be done. So let me remove that with an R. Expand this a bit further. So there's no limitations to the size of your station. The only thing that limits anything that you do is maintenance. Let's build one. And expand this over here. Let's check out the resources that we need. We're probably short on a few things. So we need more power, we need more of an atmosphere, and more payload exchange. I don't know why the game is not giving me the other research modules.
As your station gets bigger, the chance for errors increases as well. They can occur on every module and will have a negative impact on the efficiency of your station. Systems with errors have reduced efficiency. The more severe an error is, the worse the efficiency will be.
So let me expand my resources. That may unlock further things.
We do not have enough workforce to fully station all systems. Construction and deployment of additional workforce modules is recommended.
That's fine. We have enough power now. We just need more environment. Okay, so let's see. And we also need more airlock. I'm not sure why the game is not allowing me to research. Okay, fine. Keep going here. Let me add more environmental. We'll connect that up. And that connects all of those. They should come online pretty soon. Now resources. We're good for everything except payload. Okay, now let's check out whether those missions... Okay, now we can build a bulkhead. The reason I wanted to get to bulkheads ASAP is because bulkheads isolate modules from errors that propagate. So you might get an error on one module, but you can prevent it from affecting the rest of the station. Now let's get that started. It will mean that we have to rebuild much of the station, unfortunately. But it's better to get it done sooner rather than later. Don't want to have too many long-winded missions. This is how long a mission takes, so we don't want to have something that's taking too long. That will be 50 turns, so we can go up to 50 turns. Go here, and yeah, that's about it. So let me just skip forward. Okay, and the bulkhead is done. I completed a few missions and also started a few new ones in order to get more money. But if you look at the state of our finances, you'll see that we started with 5,000. We are profitable. Early on, it should be very easy to make money. Later on, it will become more difficult. So before you expand your station too far, I recommend building up a store of cash. That way you can make sure you're not gonna go bankrupt. Anyway, let us complete these projects. We now have the bulkhead available to us. Plus a bit of cash to rework our station. Right. So. Let me do that. Let me remove all of these things. Okay, now having deleted all that, we should be able to expand properly. We get a connector which is a bit longer. The previous one I think was an 8-meter one. This is a 16-meter one. That gives us a bit more room to work with. Here. Let's go with this. And also, this is aligned with the rest of the station now. Hopefully this will stop anybody's OCD from triggering. And I like to expand things a little bit further. Just give myself plenty of room to expand. Call it future-proofing. By adding 6-way connectors, we can actually expand in all directions now. So that should be plenty of room. For the moment at least. Right, now we need to reconstruct this. Ah, that's not what I wanted to do. I mentioned before these airlocks actually need room in front of them. So, this will allow us to have all the airlocks pointing this way, pointing towards the planet. And that will not affect the rest of the station. So yes, the orientation of this also matters because
we do not have enough workforce to fully station all systems. Construction and deployment of additional workforce modules is recommended.
Yes, I get it. Bloody AI nagging me. Okay, so what's happened here is because this is aligned horizontally. Well, if you want to call that horizontal. This is aligned vertically this way. They're clashing, so this one was misplaced. So yes, the rotation matters as well here. Ah, can't do that. Okay, so I have to remove this. But luckily, like I said before, installing and removing modules doesn't cost much. So don't worry about making mistakes. Even if you reconstruct an entire station early on, it doesn't cost you much. And early on, like I said before, you're making money easily, so don't worry too much about that. Let me add a further one just in case. Ah, wrong way. Okay, there you go. So that's 3. That gives us a bit of room to expand. So now we have to reconstruct our power infrastructure. So alternating longer and shorter modules is actually not a bad idea. That allows you to pack more modules than you might otherwise be able to. So you can see that I'm stacking power, environment, and power again. Right, we need to let a little bit of time pass in order to see what's going on. And also, yes, let's deploy. So you're probably wondering what I'm doing right now. I found that the best way to future-proof your design is to group things together and link them up by the use of a bus type system. So what do I mean when I say a bus? So what I mean by that means grouping all the key wires down here in a big fat column. Then have groups of modules linking to the bus instead of directly back to the original resource modules. What that does is it makes things a lot neater. This is also how your computer works. There you go, that's payload. So that's fully connected, that's fully connected, that's fully connected. So this is the power module, this is the environmental module, this is the payload module. So you can see that we have 3 resources in the bus area right now. Now we can bring that up here, pull that up, and connect it up. This one needs to be, so you need a bit more room. A bit more room. the payload. So I found that having two parallel lines of modules works best. That way you can share cabling back to the bus. Okay, now we have the briefing center. Let's see. So if you follow the approach that I'm using now, of grouping modules by type, that will allow you to expand as you need. So for example, if I need more power, I can expand upwards, or give myself a bit of room and expand downwards. If I need more environment, just expand upwards. Because these guys are a bit bigger vertically, I'm having two lines of parallel modules. Same with this one, two lines of parallel modules, and I can expand upwards. There is no limit to how far you can go. Actually, there may be. Okay, so there may be a limit. It wasn't the case before, but there may be a limit vertically now. But if worse comes to worse and you run out of room up here, you can set up an alternate group of modules, say somewhere about here, and then connect them back up to the bus. As long as you have the bus, you can expand infinitely. It's not a problem. And it looks much neater. Oh yes, so if you make a mistake while connecting, let's say you do that, but you want it to come here, then you can simply right click to undo. That will take you back one step. There'll be more resources that have to go on the bus, so giving yourself a bit of expansion room is very important. There you go, now everything is connected. You just have to give it a bit of time. I'm fairly sure that we'll have to get more environmental control modules, which I may as well get right now actually, Oh crap. Okay, I made a mistake. Okay. Belay all that. Okay. So I forgot to put bulkheads, right? Remember the one thing that I was waiting for? Anyway, let me redo all that and it will come back in a bit. Okay, and we should be back now. So I've done a whole bunch of rework. I screwed up a few things, I forgot to add bulkheads. So now, if you look at our power stacks, you see there's a 6-way connectors here. And there's a bulkhead, and there's one of those adapters. Power, bulkhead, environment, bulkhead, and power. So I'm placing the shorter modules this way, along the station. I'm placing the longer modules like the environment control across. And here I'm alternating. So I've got the bulkhead, I've got the adapter, and the environment goes up here. Notice that it doesn't clash or overlap with the other environment. So there's enough room. And once again, the batteries go along the station. That way I have more room to expand this way. Good. So I like to stack things up this way. So you can have 4 stacks, one in each direction, one up, one down, one left, one right. You can also add further switches along the way in order to expand it. So for example, I might put a switch over here, right there, and expand upwards as well. That should give me enough room to have another stack. So there should be plenty of space to expand. Now I am putting bulkheads between some of the major pieces of the station. That is not strictly speaking necessary. Errors can propagate, but yeah, you can still have errors in some of the infrastructure modules that will isolate different parts of the station from each other. I've completely rebuilt the rest of the modules as well. So I built 4 each of the briefing centers, the administrative centers, and the laboratories. And here's a habitation module. So 1 6-way switch.
We do
4
not have enough
habitation modules on
workforce
each
to
side.
fully station all systems. Construction and deployment of additional workforce modules is recommended.
Yes, mom. Yes, mom. Although we do have enough. They just haven't come in yet. Anyway, with a bulkhead in between that. So from a role-playing perspective, you could say that if something happens to the rest of the station, these habitation modules can simply blow themselves off and drift off into space. There's the bulkhead isolating the people from the rest of the environment, and I've put bulkheads between each of the modules and the rest of the infrastructure, together with occasional bulkheads. No, I haven't put the bulkheads here. So anyway, so if I get an error in any of these pieces of the infrastructure, so let's say this switch gets an error, then what will happen is that the error may propagate along, but it will not affect the bigger modules, and it should be fully contained within this space only. I don't think you need as many bulkheads as I've been adding. So each of the airlocks has a separate bulkhead as well, which is kind of sensible, right? If you think about it. If something goes wrong during docking, then you want to have some kind of way to separate the airlock itself, from the rest of the station. But like I said, it's probably not necessary to have this many bulkheads, but I just like that for role-playing purposes. Now what this means for the abstract system layout is that there's a hell of a lot of bulkheads. So yes, you can see that we have a lot of bulkheads. Here's our power modules, again grouped up into a single group, connecting down to the bus. And here's our environmental control, again connecting down to the bus, providing atmosphere to the bus and drawing power. Here's our airlocks. They draw power and environment, but provide payload exchange. In other words, cargo exchange capacity. Here we have the labs, grouped up into two parallel stacks that connect down to the bus. And again, we have the briefing center, two parallel lines connecting down to the bus. Similarly, administration, two parallel lines going down to the bus. Here we have all the bulkheads. We're gonna need a lot of them, so I'm leaving plenty of room down here. Plenty of room. Worst case, I can also expand this way. And here's the habitation modules. I may need multiple lines at some point.
We do not have enough workforce to fully station all systems. Construction and deployment of additional workforce modules is recommended.
Okay, but if we look at our requirements, we're pretty good on power. We're a little bit short, may need maybe one more module. Let's build two just for safety. We will definitely need one more airlock, and we'll definitely need a whole bunch of environmental modules. So let's get on with that. That may be enough. It's okay to be a little bit short. It's not really that much of a problem. This guy's provided 7, we have 4. We actually need more. We actually need more. Okay, so we're gonna need more habitation modules. So one bulkhead. So the way I've done it kind of fits in between the bigger modules. So if I need to expand and say add more administrative centers, or say a briefing center or an extra lab, then I should be able to just build a bulkhead here, or actually maybe a 6-way switch and just expand upwards, and this shouldn't clash with this habitation module. So there's plenty of room for expansion there. So basically I place these things so people have to work 24/7. So you're either working or you're sleeping. None of this other recreational stuff. Although supposedly the habitat capsules have inbuilt entertainment. There are different levels of habitation modules, by the way. They give you more room for people to live in. Oh, look at that percentage. May need to expand more.
We do not have enough workforce to fully station all systems. Construction and deployment of additional workforce modules is recommended.
Alright, alright. Jesus, how many modules do you want? Yes, in the future, your mom's gonna be an AI. That's where humanity is heading. We're gonna build our own mums. Okay, let's go. And imagine that in the future we shouldn't have to be physically at a workplace in order to work, right? So technically speaking, all of the administrative modules, lab modules and everything, they should kind of be remotable, right? So you should be able to stay at your habitation capsule and just connect in, right? Maybe by the bus, lol. That will definitely give a different meaning to the phrase, taking the bus to work. As you build more modules to provide you more resource, they'll in turn require more resources of their own, except for power.
We do not have enough workforce to fully station all systems. Construction and deployment of additional workforce modules is recommended.
But yes, basically building more environmental modules requires you to have more batteries. It's a bit complex. Yeah, it's a bit complex. But it's a good idea to start off on the right foot. So for example, if you start adding bulkheads and whatnot early on, that can save you a lot of trouble later on. Now, speaking of errors, one of the things that I've noticed is that it's a little bit difficult to notice errors coming up. So in this case, in order to get the details, you have to go down to the SMI, go to the station overview, and come down to the error history. You'll get a notification that an error is happening. Relative to how much damage they can cause you, the notification is kind of small. You can't really see. So if you press tab, you can get information. You can scroll upwards. There may be a notification of an error. Maybe not. So that must have happened a while back. Does it say when it happened? No, it just says how long it took. So you can have people dying. It's a bit strange because ultimately names don't really mean anything. So you can see how, yeah, you have the adapter, you have the administration. So this must have been a while back. because now administrations are buffered from the rest of the station by our bulkheads. So this couldn't have happened. So this must have happened really early on. So anyway, it turns out that aliens killed a cleaner. I believe there was a game that was based on that. Aliens attacking the cleaner. Yes, and the cleaner kicked the aliens' butts. Roger Wilker has died, RIP. It's a very old game. Don't worry if you don't get the reference. And also, while you have the tab information open, you can't build, so you have to close the tab first. If you follow the layout that I put together here, you can see that you should be able to expand pretty easily. Now, in earlier patches, we were able to expand upwards almost infinitely. That may not be the case anymore. There's a definite limit in terms of scrolling. Maybe we can still expand further up. So there doesn't seem to be any actual limit to what you can do here in terms of connectivity. It just comes down to how much time you're willing to spend to organize things. But like I said, once you have a philosophy like we have with the bus, we should be okay. Everything's fine. Throughout all that, I've kind of neglected to continue the missions. So yes, make sure our money has dropped by about half. So make sure that you're making money. So focus on the stuff which pays off best. And then after that, focus on time. In this case, yeah, we should be fine. Yeah, fine. Fine. So that's all that. And that's opened up a whole bunch of research.
An error may also spread across your station. Depending on the kind of error, it will spread differently. We do not have enough workforce to fully station all systems. Construction and deployment of additional workforce modules is recommended. The chance for errors and their spreading can be reduced by infrastructure modules. These modules affect other modules in a certain range. More detailed information can be found in the station overview inside the station management interface.
Right, so we have an error here. That's added, that's affected. Okay, so we can click on that in order to get that. What is this? Environment. Here. AX10. This one, right? AX10, okay. So we can't see that that it has an error. But at worst case, so if an error originates here, worst case it will affect this adapter and this environment. But the bulkhead should keep things nice and safe. So it shouldn't spread any further than that, as far as I know. But it's now contained, basically. There was a temporary error, didn't cause much damage. So there you go. So money is becoming a bit of a concern now. Yeah, we're at 2,000. So yes, this is the time to start looking at interest rates. 6% is a bit high, but yeah, if you really had to, then you could get that. 3% is good. But I don't need it right now. As soon as all of these missions come in, we should be good for money.
Monetary resources of the station are getting critical. It is recommended taking on additional contracts to improve the situation. Additionally, we currently do not have enough workforce to run all systems at full capacity. It should be considered to turn off some non-essential systems until the situation improves or build and deploy additional workforce modules.
Yes, Mom. I'm onto it, Mom. You have to pay back loans automatically after a bit. You can pay it off early, but there is a penalty. So in this case, if we pay off early, we pay an extra 1.187%. Not a problem, but no need to pay it off early, right? Here we are. There you go. Money's coming in. Always keep an eye on... Yeah, perfect. New missions. Now, because we built a whole bunch of modules, that unlocks a whole bunch of things. The game becomes a lot more complex at this point. And you can easily find yourself in a money pit. So if you expand too quickly, yeah, be careful about that. But as you can see, some of the other missions require some other things that are kind of important. So which means we have to expand. Okay, so one of the biggest actually we have to research, excuse me. One of the biggest ones is the conference room. The cargo bay is also a prerequisite for a few other things. This one is kind of important. So they'll provide you different resources, right? So don't worry about not knowing exactly what needs to be built before what. Like I've said previously, the game is very generous when it comes to errors. So you should be able to just test a few things and, get a feel for what's needed for what. So water provides water resources, bioreactors later on, okay, that's all that. This one is kind of required for some of the things, but radio dish is one of those important things. Like I said before, there are multiple levels of cabins. unfortunately it doesn't give you information about what each research unlocks. This one just means extra power. It's optional, but it takes up a lot of room. Terminal is needed for computing resources, which is kind of a prerequisite for many things actually. So this one is a prerequisite for radio dish, for example. We have a whole bunch of things going on, a couple of research modules, 3 in fact, and a whole bunch of money. So let's let a little bit of time pass. Then
Current status of credits is getting critical. It is strongly advised taking on some additional contracts.
Oh, is that what they call it? Credits! Ah yes, those funky future people. They have to rename everything and make it funky. But yeah, the contracts that require a lot of resources have a big payoff. Like for example this one. That will be enough to keep us going for basically 150 turns. Conference room ready, excellent. Okay, so let's build some of those conference centers. Okay, let's go backwards. Get an extension. And a 6 switch. Do I build bulkheads? No, I don't build bulkheads, do I? No, that's fine. 16 meters, another switch.
The monetary resources of the station are not on an adequate level, but there are multiple projects ready to be completed in the station management interface.
Alright, alright. So like I said before, you have to come in here and finish these things off. So we are keeping our heads above water, but not really efficiently. Once I build the conference rooms over here, as you can see, those 2 missions require the conference rooms. We should be able to get more money quickly. So that's the next thing to do. Okay, so let's see. So after the bulkheads, the priority should be those conference rooms. They're what you call easy money. It would be nice if you could shift off big parts of the station. For example, if I wanted to move this a bit closer to here, to say the administration modules, I wish I could just pick up this entire set of modules here and just shift them over. Because in space you could do that, right? But you have to reconstruct them if you want to do that in the game. Makes sense. There's probably not enough benefit to the amount of work you would need to do to allow that. But yeah, later modules do become a little bit more expensive. So yeah, it's 100. That was costly. So basically, you shouldn't feel pressured to try and get everything done ASAP. Take your time. The game doesn't have a time limit, even on the mission quests. Here we go. That's 4 conference rooms, I believe. Oh, okay, this one requires a different modules. Okay, so one of the resources that the conference rooms require is cargo space, which I don't have. So let me put these guys into reserve. Yes, okay, so I forgot about that. Cargo space. Can't do that anytime soon. Bob Fetter. I wonder who Bob Fetter is. And 3 mission, okay. Cargo base done, ready dish, and radiator array. Now we can build some cargo space. Here we are. This one has multiple connectors. So the way I like to do it is to put them facing outwards and put an airlock here. So put that parallel. It does kind of go back towards the station, but we should be fine. Put bulkheads in between the cargo spaces. Like I said before, I'm probably being paranoid, but okay, so we have some cargo space. Let's pause for a second. And yeah, submit these missions. Excellent. We are now in a far better financial situation. So this one takes in power and environment, and it produces cargo space, which is required by the conference rooms. You have to wonder what they're discussing that requires so much cargo space. Okay, so that's a new resource. So we have to make sure we have enough room down here. I know we'll need water and heat, so I'll put this over here, a couple of rows down. This row can be for water and this one for heat. So we'll probably need computer power as well, plus a few other things. That's for the future. Alright, so let's see. Give it a bit more time. Okay, so we need a lot more environment. A lot more environment. Oh my god. Okay, fine. Okay, let's pause. Money is too critical for us to proceed on. This is really important. Really important. Need the money. Oh yeah. You can see how with the number of modules increasing, things get a lot more complex. So if I hadn't organized things beforehand, things would get a lot more ugly. So anyway, I think I'm about to go bust. I took a loan to keep myself afloat, but we're definitely not making enough money to keep up with expenses. So I think this game's gonna end up in a bust status. But I think you get the point, right? This is how you build a station, this is how I recommend you do stuff, but take some time once you build your basic infrastructure to collect some cash. Maybe get up to say about 30 or 40,000 gold, or credits if you want to call them that, and then expand to things like the conference room and stuff like that, because that's where our expenses started to balloon. If we just kept up to the laboratory, then we would have been fine. Now the problem is that as you expand, the missions start to require more and more advanced infrastructure, which we don't have. So we're basically trapped in a position where we need money in order to construct some of the infrastructure that we need to get the better missions, but we're currently not getting enough missions to give us money. It's a bit of a vicious cycle right now. So I think this game is gonna end in a bust, but like I said before, once you build, say, the briefing centers, the administration centers, and the laboratories, take some time to get some cash, and you should be fine. What I didn't do was collect enough funds to keep the station running while I built the extra infrastructure. So say about 30,000 or 40,000 usually is good enough. Or at least I found that to be good enough in my experience. Anyway, thank you very much, take care of yourselves out there, and hopefully you've learned a bit about how to play the game. Feel free to ask me questions in the comments and whatnot, but otherwise, goodbye. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe and hit the bell button to be notified when new videos come out. See you soon.